The culling games had finally drawn to a chaotic, bloody close. The dust over Japan was settling, but the jujutsu world was left completely fractured. In the aftermath of the final battles, the surviving sorcerers gathered at a makeshift jujutsu high command center. Among them was Kasumi Miwa. She sat on a wooden crate in a ruined courtyard, her blue hair messy and her uniform tattered from the weeks of non-stop survival. She was staring blankly at her broken sword hilt, feeling completely useless compared to the monsters she had witnessed fighting in the colonies. The sound of heavy, deliberate footsteps broke the silence. Miwa blinked, looking up as a tall teenager walked into the courtyard. He looked about 16 years old, sporting messy, grayish-blue hair that fell slightly over his face. He wore a crisp, tailored matte black jujutsu high uniform with a high collar that looked completely untouched by the war. But what caught her attention immediately were his eyes, a striking, luminous emerald green that carried a sharp, piercing intensity. Their first meeting, post-culling games. Kasumi Miwa, Kyoto second year, and Angie Gojo, special grade second year. Feeling helpless and weak, calm, arrogant, and overwhelmingly powerful. The boy stopped a few paces away from her, casually tossing a small metal lug nut in the air and catching it. Except, whenever the metal fell toward his hand, it seemed to slow down and snap into his palm with an unnatural weight. "You're Miwa, right?" From the Kyoto school, the boy spoke, his tone casual but carrying a natural, heavy authority.
Yes.
Miwa stood up abruptly, her old habits kicking in as she gave a stiff, anxious bow. "Kasumi Miwa, second year. Who are you? I haven't seen your face around the Tokyo or Kyoto branches before." The boy let out a small, amused chuckle. He stopped tossing the metal piece, holding it between two fingers. "Angie Gojo, Satoru's little cousin. I'm a second year too, though I've spent most of my time handled by the higher-ups away from the main schools. I'm a special grade." Miwa's jaw dropped. Another Gojo? And a special grade? Her eyes darted from his grayish-blue hair down to his matte black uniform. The sheer aura radiating off him suddenly made the air feel incredibly heavy, like the atmospheric pressure in the courtyard had doubled. Another one." Miwa whispered, sweating slightly under the invisible weight. "Are all you Gojos just born to be completely terrifying?" "Pretty much," Angie smirked, his emerald green eyes flashing with that trademark Gojo arrogance. He noticed her tight grip on her broken sword hilt and the dejected look she tried to hide. "You look like you've been through hell. And you're vibrating like a guitar string. Relax, I'm not here to fight. I'm just..." Miwa looked down at her boots, her voice growing quiet. "During the culling games, I couldn't do anything. Everyone else was using these insane domain expansions and reality bending techniques, and I'm just a useless girl with a broken sword who can barely use new shadow style anymore. I feel like I don't even belong in the same world as people like you." Angie stared at her for a moment. The arrogant smirk vanished from his face, replaced by a calm, analytical expression. He tossed the metal lug nut directly at her. Miwa's instincts flinched, but before she could move, the metal piece stopped completely in midair, floating exactly 3 inches in front of her nose. It didn't fall. It just hovered, humming with a faint, dark purple cursed energy. "My technique is void gravity," Angie explained, walking past her to lean against a ruined concrete wall. "I control the weight of things. Mass, attraction, repulsion. To most people, gravity is just a rule they have to obey. To me, it's a toy." Miwa stared at the floating metal piece, completely mesmerized. "Wow, it's amazing." "It's physics," Angie countered smoothly. He flicked his finger, and the metal piece dropped harmlessly into Miwa's open hand. "But do you know what else gravity reacts to? It reacts to mass. The bigger you are, the more you pull things toward you. Sorcerers like Satoru and me, we have so much mass that the entire world gets dragged into our mess. People get hurt just by being near us." He looked back at her, his emerald green eyes softening just a fraction. "You survived a literal war zone full of ancient sorcerers and curses without a god-tier birthright, Miwa. That means your own gravity kept you grounded when everything else was tearing apart. Don't call yourself useless." Miwa blinked, the heavy lump in her chest suddenly loosening. She looked down at the metal piece in her hand, then up at Angie. A tiny, genuine smile broke through her tired face. "Are you trying to cheer me up, Gojo-kun?" Angie turned his head away, his grayish-blue hair shadowing his eyes as he clicked his tongue, the trademark arrogance returning instantly. Don't get weird. I just hate seeing people mope around. Besides, we have a bigger problem. Satoru is still trapped in that damn box, and I need to find Yuji Itadori. He's tracking the rift it fell through. He began walking away, his matte black uniform rustling in the wind. Just before he cleared the courtyard, he waved a hand over his shoulder. Get some rest, Miwa. Next time I see you, I expect you to have a new sword. You're going to need it if you're tagging along with a special grade. Miwa watched him disappear around the corner, holding the small metal piece tightly. For the first time since the culling games began, the crushing weight of hopelessness felt a little lighter. Angie is still walking away when a heavy, metallic clank echoes through the courtyard. A shadow falls over him as Maki Zenin steps out from behind a collapsed concrete pillar, her arms crossed over her scarred chest. She isn't wearing a uniform. She wears a sleeveless tactical gear, her short hair framing her severe face and the burn scars covering her skin. Resting casually against her shoulder is the split-soul katana. Her intervention in the courtyard. Maki Zenin, the monster, versus Angie Gojo, special grade. 0 cursed energy, HR, ultimate cursed energy, gravity. Maki glances at Miwa, then shifts her sharp, piercing gaze directly onto Angie's back. Hey, brat, Maki calls out, her voice cutting through the courtyard like a blade. I heard you throwing around the Gojo name. Who gave you permission to act like you own the place while Satoru is gone? Angie stops in his tracks. He doesn't look startled. He looks mildly amused. He slowly turns around, his grayish-blue hair catching the afternoon light as his emerald-green eyes lock onto Maki. He takes his hands out of his matte black uniform pockets. Maki Zenin, Angie says, a smirk tugging at his lips. The girl with 0 cursed energy who wiped out her entire clan. Satoru talked about you. I didn't think you'd be hiding in the shadows eavesdropping on a second-year conversation. I don't hide, Maki retorts, stepping forward. The sheer physical presence she radiates due to her heavenly restriction is suffocating. Even without a single drop of cursed energy, she moves with the terrifying grace of an apex predator. I just don't like arrogant punks who look and sound exactly like that blindfolded idiot. She stops just a few feet from him, planting the tip of her katana into the cracked pavement. You call yourself a special grade? The higher-ups are dead, so those titles don't mean a damn thing anymore, Maki says coldly. If you're going after Yuji and the box, you're going to be a liability if you're just all talk. Angie's smirk widens into a sharp, cocky grin. All talk. That's cute coming from a corpse who broke out of her family's basement. Instantly, the atmosphere changes. Angie doesn't even move a muscle, but his void gravity flares. A localized wave of pure, crushing gravitational force drops over Maki. The concrete beneath her boots violently cracks and shatters, sinking an inch into the ground. Miwa gasps, taking a panicked step back as the wind pressure throws her blue hair wild. Goyo kouen. Maki-san. Stop, we are on the same side. Maki's knees don't even buckle. Her superhuman, heavenly restriction biology adjusts instantly to the sudden influx of 10 times normal gravity. Her grip on her katana tightens, and she smiles, a brutal, battle-hungry grin. Oh, so you can manipulate weight, Maki mutters, shifting her stance flawlessly despite the crushing pressure. Too bad gravity relies on mass, brat. And my body doesn't play by the rules of jujutsu. In a fraction of a second, Maki bursts through his gravitational field, leaving a sonic boom in her wake. She appears directly in front of Angie, her blade swinging in a lethal horizontal arc toward his neck. Angie's emerald eyes widen slightly in genuine surprise at her speed. He doesn't dodge. Instead, he barks out a command. Void gravity, event horizon. A microscopic, absolute point of gravity manifests right in front of the blade. Space warps violently. Maki's swing doesn't hit a physical shield. Instead, the trajectory of her sword is forcefully dragged downward by a localized gravitational well, burying the blade deep into the earth right at Angie's feet. The force of the impact kicks up a massive cloud of dust and debris, obscuring both of them. When the dust clears, Maki is holding her sword embedded in the ground, and Angie is standing perfectly still, his hand hovering inches above her blade, his fingers crossed to maintain the localized gravity. They are staring each other down, inches apart, The ultimate product of cursed energy versus the ultimate product of physical perfection. Not bad, monster, Angie chuckles, a bead of sweat tracing down his jaw, though his arrogance remains totally intact. You're faster than Satoru said you'd be. And you're less annoying than him, but only by a little, Maki says, pulling her sword from the dirt with a sharp rip. She sheathes it over her shoulder, the murderous intent vanishing as quickly as it appeared. You'll do. If you're going after Yuji, I'm coming with you. He's tracking a weird space-time residue near the school gates, and I'm not letting a cocky kid handle it alone. Angie clicks his tongue, turning back around and fixing his high collar. Do whatever you want. Just try to keep up. Miwa stands in the background, clutching her broken hilt, her heart hammering against her ribs. She looks at the two absolute powerhouses walking side by side toward the school gates. Yeah, she thinks to herself, the world is definitely changing. The trio arrives at the edge of the Tokyo Jujutsu High boundary just as the sky begins to tear open. A jagged, crimson, and black rift splits the air, humming with a bizarre mixture of residual cursed energy and a completely foreign, demonic magic. Standing right at the precipice of the anomaly is Yuji Itadori. He is desperately reaching out, trying to grab the floating, fleshy prison realm cube as it gets violently dragged into the suction of the portal. Yuji, don't touch that thing. Maki yells, her superhuman speed kicking in as she sprints across the courtyard. I can't let it go, Maki-san. Yuji shouts back, his fingers finally wrapping around the cold edges of the box. Satoru is inside. If this thing disappears into that hole, we'll never get him back. The moment Yuji's hands lock onto the cube, the gravitational pull of the rift quadruples. A violent vortex of wind whips through the trees, shattering the surrounding concrete pillars. Yuji's boots skid across the dirt as his entire body is lifted off the ground, dragged backward into the gaping, multicolored void. Crisis at the dimensional rift. Yuji Itadori equals. Sucked into portal with prison realm. Maki Zenin equals. Lunging forward to grab Yuji. Diving into the unknown. Maki leaps into the air, her arm outstretched to grab Yuji's hoodie, but the dimensional suction is too fast. Yuji vanishes into the blinding light of the portal with a loud yell. Without a second thought, Maki shifts her momentum mid-air, diving straight into the rift after him. Miwa, stay back, she commands right before the darkness swallows her. Miwa stands frozen in the courtyard, the violent winds threatening to knock her over. Maki-san. Itadori-kun. Angie Gojo steps forward, his greyish-blue hair wild in the vortex. His emerald green eyes track the closing edges of the tear. He doesn't show a single ounce of panic. Instead, a sharp, thrill-seeking smirk spreads across his face as he adjusts the collar of his matte black uniform. Anchor yourself to me, Miwa, Angie orders, extending his right hand while crossing the fingers of his left. Void gravity, event horizon. Angie violently slams his left hand downward, forcing the absolute gravity of his technique to latch onto the edges of the closing portal. The rift groans, the space-time tearing sound echoing like thunder as Angie physically forces the dimensional doorway to stay open, defying the laws of reality. We are not losing Satoru to some bargain bin universe, Angie mutters, his cursed energy flaring in a massive, dark purple aura. He grabs Miwa by the arm, stabilizing her against the intense pressure. Let's go see where this rabbit hole leads. With his gravity pinning the portal open, Angie takes a deliberate step forward, pulling Miwa along as they dive headfirst into the abyss, chasing after Yuji and Maki into the supernatural world of Highschool DxD. The entire Jujutsu squad has crossed over. The dimensional transition separates the group instantly. Yuji Itadori hits the ground hard, crashing through a thick canopy of trees and creating a massive crater in the secluded woods on the outskirts of Kuo Town. He rolls to his feet, coughing up dirt, but his hands are still firmly locked around the cold, fleshy edges of the prison realm cube. Man, that smarts. Yuji groans, shaking the debris out of his pink hair. He looks around the quiet, unfamiliar forest, his senses immediately picking up a strange, heavy magic in the air that doesn't feel like cursed energy at all. Where the heck am I? And where did the others go? A split arrival, Kuo Town. Yuji Itadori Angie Gojo. Crashed in the woods free falling from 3 million feet. Holding prison realm outer stratosphere or thermosphere. Completely uninjured, absolutely thrilled. The 3 million foot drop. Meanwhile, 3 million feet above him, right on the bleeding edge of the planet's exosphere where space meets the upper atmosphere. A second tear in reality snaps shut. Angie Gojo tumbles out into the freezing, airless vacuum. Down below, the entire curvature of the Earth stretches out in a breathtaking display of deep blues and swirling white clouds. At this altitude, over 560 miles up, there is no oxygen, the temperature is a biting absolute cold, and gravity is a microscopic fraction of what it is on the surface. Ordinary humans would instantly freeze, asphyxiate, and explode. Angie doesn't even blink. His emerald green eyes reflect the brilliant glare of the sun against the planet's edge. His grayish-blue hair floats wildly in the zero-G environment, and his matte black uniform ripples slightly as atmospheric drag slowly begins to catch him. "Well," Angie says, his voice entirely silent in the vacuum of space, though a cocky, thrilled smirk spreads across his face. Satoru always said the view from the top was nice. He crosses his index and middle fingers. Void gravity, horizon zero. Instead of letting the planet naturally pull him down into a burning, friction-heavy re-entry, Angie takes complete control of his own mass. He doesn't just fall, he forces the gravitational pull of the entire Earth to focus entirely on his body, multiplying his downward velocity exponentially. He becomes a human meteor, burning through the sky. Angie plummets through the thermosphere and mesosphere at Mach 25, a roaring cone of friction-heated plasma igniting around his body. The air pressure screams against his ears as he tears through the sky, converting the kinetic energy into pure, dark purple cursed energy that wraps around his uniform like a protective shell. Down in Kuo town, the supernatural residents look up at the night sky. Ria's Gremory, Sona Citri, and the fallen angels patrolling the borders all freeze as a blinding, violet shooting star tears through the clouds, heading directly toward the town center at terrifying speed. Yuji, Angie speaks into the roaring wind, his voice cutting through the sound barrier as he pinpoints his cousin's cursed energy signature thousands of miles below. "Better get ready. I'm landing in 5 seconds." The special grade is descending like an orbital strike. The orbital strike. In the secluded woods of Kuo town, Yuji Itadori finds himself surrounded. 3 fallen angels, led by a rogue commander named Kalawana, step from the shadows. Their pitch-black feathered wings rustle as they manifest glowing light spears, eyeing the strange prison realm cube in Yuji's hands. "Hand over the artifact, human, and maybe we'll kill you quickly," Kalawana sneers. Yuji drops into a martial arts stance, cursed energy flaring around his fists. "Look, lady, I don't know what kind of curses you are, but I'm having a really bad day. Step aside." Suddenly, the night sky turns a violent, blinding shade of purple. The clouds part in a perfect circle as a deafening sonic boom shatters the silence of the forest. The air pressure drops so rapidly that the fallen angels are forced to their knees, their light spears flickering out. "What is that?" "A Longinus sacred gear." Kalawana screams, looking up. Boom. Angie Gojo impacts the Earth at Mach 25. The kinetic shockwave mimics a tactical nuclear strike. A massive, fiery crater erupts in the center of the woods, obliterating the trees for a half-mile radius. The 3 fallen angels are caught in the epicenter. The sheer localized weight of Angie's landing multiplies the gravity by 10,000, instantly crushing their physical forms and shattering their black wings into dust before they can even scream. As the smoke clears, 16-year-old Angie steps out of the glowing, molten crater. His matte black uniform is completely pristine, untouched by the atmospheric re-entry. He casually runs a hand through his messy grayish-blue hair, his luminous emerald green eyes scanning the destruction. "Landing coordinates were a little off," Angie mutters, looking at Yuji, who is coughing violently from the dust cloud. Juhi. Miss me." "Angie." Yuji yells, wiping ash off his face. "Are you crazy? You almost killed me. You can't just drop out of space like a meteor." "But did you die?" Angie smirks, his trademark arrogance fully on display. "No." "So stop whining." Status report. The arrival. Character location status, immediate action. Angie Gojo Kuo Woods, crater, pristine, just annihilated fallen angels. Yuji Itadori Kuo Woods, crater edge, slightly dusty, holding prison realm. Maki Zenin Kuo Town Center walking out of a shattered fountain. Miwa Kasumi Kuo Academy courtyard panicking, hidden by an invisible barrier. Maki's unfazed landing. Meanwhile, in the center of Kuo Town, A loud crash echoes through the public square. Maki Zenin tumbles out of the sky, slamming straight through a concrete decorative fountain. The local townspeople scream and run, but Maki simply steps out of the rubble, water dripping from her tactical gear. She grips the split-soul katana over her shoulder, completely uninjured thanks to her apex predator heavenly restriction body. Annoying portal, Maki grunts, cracking her neck. She shifts her sharp gaze toward the woods, sensing the massive kinetic shockwave Angie just caused. Stupid brat always has to make an entrance. Well, at least I know where he is. Before she can take a step, Kibuyuto and Koneko Tuju, who are patrolling the town center for Rias, drop down from the rooftops. They look at the shattered fountain, then at the scarred girl holding a sword. Identify yourself, Kiba says, drawing his demonic sword. You aren't a normal human. Maki doesn't even draw her blade. She just gives them a cold, dangerous smile. Get out of my way, kids. I'm not in the mood. Miwa's panic at the academy. On the other side of town, Kasumi Miwa opens her eyes to find herself sitting in the middle of the empty Kuo Academy courtyard. She is hyperventilating, clutching her broken sword hilt. Maki-san. Goyo kouen. Itadori kouen. Where is everyone? Who goes there? A strict, authoritative voice demands. Miwa flinches as Sona Citri and her queen, Tsubaki Shinra, step into the moonlit courtyard. Sona's glasses glint in the dark, her demonic aura subtly flaring. She had felt the massive space-time tear and the subsequent meteor strike in the woods, and now an unknown girl in a strange uniform has manifested on her school grounds. A Kyoto uniform. No, that's not right, Sona analyzes sharply, sensing zero magic but a strange spiritual pressure from Miwa. You are an unregistered variable. State your business in Kuo Town. Miwa aggressively bows, her tears flying. I'm sorry. I'm just a useless second year. Please don't hurt me. I don't even know what country this is anymore. The Convergence. Back in the ruined forest, the immense magical signatures of Ria's Gremory and her remaining peerage manifest via a red demonic crest. Ria steps out, her crimson hair flowing, her face pale as she looks at the absolute devastation of the forest and the two teenage boys standing in the center. What? What kind of monsters are you? Ria's whispers, her power of destruction flaring defensively. Angie doesn't even look at her. He turns his back, his emerald eyes fixed on the horizon where he can feel Maki's physical presence moving. Hey, Yuji. The locals are starting to crowd us. Let's go gather the squad. The pieces are set across Kuo Town. Position report. Maki Zenin Kibuyuto and Koneko Tuju. Standing in ruined fountain blocking path on adjacent rooftop. Weapon, split-soul katana weapons, demonic sword or raw strength. Cursed energy, 0, HR, demonic power, high. Maki's POV. The water dripping from my hair is lukewarm. That's the first thing I notice. The second thing I notice is that the concrete under my boots didn't survive my landing. The decorative fountain in the center of this weird town square is completely pulverized. My heavenly restriction body absorbs the kinetic force easily. No broken bones, no internal bleeding, not even a bruise. Just a slight stiffness in my shoulders from falling a few thousand feet through a dimensional tear. I shake the excess water off my sleeveless tactical top and roll my neck. A satisfying pop echoes through the quiet square. Then I feel it. A massive, concussive rumble violently shakes the earth beneath me, originating from the dense woods on the outskirts of the town. The night sky over the trees turns a brilliant, obnoxious shade of deep violet. Angie. Stupid brat, I mutter, a smirk playing on my lips. Always has to drop like a bomb. At least I know he and Yuji are alive. I reach back, making sure the hilt of the split-soul katana is securely strapped across my shoulder. I take a step over the shattered lip of the fountain, intent on heading straight toward the purple light, when my senses spike. I don't have cursed energy. I can't read magic or aura. But what I do have is absolute sensory perfection. I can feel the microscopic shift in the wind pressure. I can hear the subtle friction of fabric against the air. Two of them, dropping down from the rooftops. A blonde kid with a European-style sword steps into the moonlight. Next to him is a petite girl with white hair, wearing a school uniform, looking at me with a stoic, vacant expression. They aren't humans. Their bodies feel heavier, denser, similar to curses, but with a cleaner, physical biology. Identify yourself, the blonde kid says, his voice tense as he raises his blade. You aren't a normal human. You just fell out of the sky and destroyed public property. I don't even bother taking my hands out of my pockets. I look at his stance. His weight is shifted slightly too far back on his heels. He's fast, sure, but his movements are predictable. The little girl next to him is dense, built like a small tank. A brawler. Get out of my way, kids, I say coldly, my voice cutting through the splashing sound of the broken water pipes. I'm not in the mood to babysit. The white-haired girl doesn't say a word. She just steps forward, her small fist clenching as a heavy, oppressive energy ripples around her. She bursts off the pavement, moving at a speed that would easily blind a normal sorcerer, aiming a heavy right hook straight at my face. Slow. To my eyes, the world moves in slow motion. I don't draw my sword. I wait until her fist is exactly 2 inches from my nose before I tilt my head slightly to the left. The wind from her punch whistles past my ear, shattering the brick wall behind me from the sheer air pressure. Before she can recover her balance, I bring my left hand out of my pocket and drive an open palm strike directly into her chest. Thwack. The impact sounds like a sledgehammer hitting a steel plate. The girl's eyes widen in shock as her momentum is completely reversed. She flies backward, skidding 50 feet across the asphalt before crashing into the base of a lamppost, the metal pole bending from the force. Koneko, the blonde boy shouts. His eyes snap back to me, burning with a mix of anger and sheer disbelief. He didn't see me move. To him, his partner just bounced off me like a rubber ball. He lunges forward, his sword blurring into a dozen lethal slashes aimed at my vitals. The crunch is loud and deeply satisfying. He stumbles back, blood instantly pouring from his face, his vision swimming as he struggles to keep his footing. Like I said, I grunt, adjusting the strap of my katana and walking right past them without a second glance. I'm Busse. If your boss has a problem with me breaking her fountain, tell her to come find Maki Zenin. I track the distant, heavy gravity signature of Angie's cursed energy in the woods and start walking, leaving the 2 bleeding devils behind in the dust. Maki just completely blindsided the Gremory vanguards. Position report.
Enge Gojo Yudi Utadori Sona Citrik Kasumi Mika.
Moving from woods to school standing in academy courtyard. Current velocity. Mach 3 negotiating or investigating. Objective. Retrieve Miwa status. About to be disrupted. The tactical retreat. In the smoking crater of the Kuo woods, Ria's Gremory prepares to unleash her power of destruction. The crimson energy crackles around her fingertips, illuminating the dark trees. Angie Gojo doesn't even look at her. He turns his back entirely on the Gremory household, his emerald green eyes tracking a specific, frantic cursed energy signature across town. Yuji, Angie commands, his voice dropping into a low, authoritative register. Grab the box tight. We are moving. I'm not wasting my time playing checkers with the locals. Wait, what about them? Yuji asks, glancing back at Riaz's glowing magic circles. They are too slow, Angie smirks. Before Riaz can launch her attack, Angie crosses his fingers. A massive localized pulse of void gravity snaps into existence, pushing the atmospheric density around him and Yuja to absolute zero. With no air resistance and an inverted gravitational pull behind them, Angie accelerates instantly. Boom! A massive sonic boom shatters the remaining trees as Angie and Yuja vanish in a flash of dark purple light, leaving a vacuum of rushing wind that knocks the entire Gremory peerage off their feet. The courtyard interruption. Over at Kuo Academy, Kasumi Miwa is still aggressively bowing and crying in front of a highly suspicious Sona Citri. Please don't execute me. Miwa wails, her blue hair flying. I'm just a second year. I don't even know what a devil is. Sona adjusts her glasses, her sharp eyes analyzing Miwa's broken sword hilt. Calm down. As long as you aren't affiliated with the Stray Devils or the Fallen Angels, the Student Council has no intention of. Sona's sentence is brutally cut short. The air pressure in the courtyard drops to 0 in a millisecond. Sona's sensory cells scream a catastrophic warning as a shockwave tore through the sky above the school. Angie Gojo drops from the sky at Mach 3, generating so much kinetic force that the concrete tiles of the courtyard violently lift and ripple like a wave in the ocean. He doesn't touch the ground. He hovers exactly 2 inches above it, his matte black uniform snapping wildly in the wind he created.
Ge Goyo-kun.
Miwa gasps, looking up through the blinding dust. Angie doesn't waste a single syllable. Moving at a speed that completely bypasses the perception of Sona and Tsubaki, Angie hooks his arm firmly around Miwa's waist. "Hold on, Miwa," Angie says, his eyes gleaming with insufferable confidence. With a brutal flick of his wrist, he reverses the gravitational vectors around the three of them. Before Sona can even manifest a defensive water barrier, Angie, Yuji, and Miwa shoot straight up into the night sky like a surface-to-air missile, leaving a massive, smoking crater in the center of the pristine academy courtyard. "Tsubaki." Sona coughs, waving her hand through the thick dust cloud as she stares up at the empty sky where the three sorcerers had just been. "Get a message to Surzex. Kuo Town has just been invaded by unknown entities, and they are completely off the charts." High above the clouds, safely out of reach of any magical tracking, Angie floats effortlessly, carrying Miwa under his arm while Yuja dangles from his other shoulder, still gripping the prison realm. "See?" Angie chuckles, his grayish-blue hair settling back into place.
No confrontation.
Perfect execution. Miwa, dangling upside down over the city lights, completely faints from the sheer G-force. The squad has reunited, minus Maki, and evaded the student council. The underworld ambush. The sky above the underworld burns a permanent, eerie crimson. Following the chaotic tracking of the prison realm, Angie, Yuji, and the freshly awoken Miwa find themselves cornered deep within a massive obsidian courtyard. The space-time coordinates of the rift have locked down. Surrounding them is an army of high-ranking devil soldiers, flanked by the leadership of the underworld. Stepping forward with an insufferable, arrogant smirk is Riser Phoenix, surrounded by his flaming peerage. Behind him, watching from an elevated balcony with a calm, deeply intense expression, is Surzex Lucifer, the Crimson Satan himself. Underworld Showdown. Riser Phoenix and Surzex Lucifer vs. Angie Gojo and Yuji Itadori. Immortality and Power of Destruction Special Grade Void Gravity. So, these are the human rats causing a ruckus in our town. Riser laughs boastfully, fire erupting from his wings. Riser will burn you to cinders. I'll take that strange box as a trophy. Right. Yuji grunts, cursed energy instantly wrapping around his fists in a violent, flickering aura. Yuja versus Riser, the floor of immortality. Riser lunges forward, launching a massive wave of hellfire. Yuja doesn't even flinch. He sprints directly through the flames, his dense physical skin taking minimal damage, and appears right in front of Riser. Divergent fist. Yuja drives a brutal right hook straight into Riser's jaw. The initial physical impact shatters Riser's teeth, but a split second later, the residual wave of cursed energy explodes like a delayed landmine, blowing Riser's head entirely off his shoulders. Flames erupt as Riser's body instantly regenerates, his head reforming with a look of pure rage. Insolent human. Riser is immortal. Your physical attacks mean nothing. Oh yeah. Yuja smirks, dropping into a deeper stance. Let's see how many times you can put yourself back together. Yuja blitzes forward again. This time, his focus is absolute. Space warps as a flash of black lightning erupts from his knuckles. The conceptual impact strikes Riser's chest, completely vaporizing his upper torso. Before the flames can fully piece him back together, Yuja hits him with a second, then a third consecutive black flash. The raw, distorted cursed energy disrupts the flow of Riser's magic within Riser, slowing his immortal regeneration to a painful crawl as Yuji utterly dismantles him. Angie versus Surzex, Divergence and RCT. Up on the balcony, Surzex Lucifer sighs. He steps over the railing, floating down to the courtyard. The ambient air turns heavy as a terrifying, pitch-black aura of power of destruction bleeds from his body, disintegrating the stone floor beneath his boots just by existing. You are exceptionally strong for humans, Surzex says softly, his power expanding. But you do not belong here. I cannot let you leave with that artifact. Surzex flicks his hand. A massive, concentrated sphere of pure destruction magic shoots toward Angie. It is a conceptual attack meant to erase whatever it touches on a molecular level. Angie stands perfectly still in his matte black uniform, his grayish-blue hair blowing in the wind. He crosses his fingers. Instead of crushing the attack with a black hole, Angie uses the fundamental nature of gravitational divergence. He distorts the space-time fabric directly in front of him, creating an infinite expanding slope. Serzex's power of destruction hits the invisible slope and is forcefully stretched out, its molecular density pulled apart until the attack literally thins out into nothingness, completely failing to reach Angie. Serzex's eyes widen in genuine shock. You deflected the power of destruction. You're just erasing matter, Angie mocks, his emerald eyes gleaming with insufferable arrogance. But matter still has to travel through space to hit me. And I own space. Serzex moves instantly. Bypassing long-range magic, he appears directly in front of Angie at a speed that breaks the sound barrier, his hand coated in concentrated destruction energy as he drives a palm strike straight into Angie's chest. Crack. The absolute pressure breaks through the initial gravity barrier, tearing a massive, bloody wound across Angie's chest. Blood splatters onto the obsidian floor. Angie doesn't even gasp. A terrifying, borderline insane grin spreads across his face as he looks down at the gaping wound. Not bad, Satan, Angie laughs. Instantly, a bright, positive white light erupts from the wound.
Reverse cursed technique.
By multiplying negative cursed energy with negative cursed energy, Angie creates positive energy. In a fraction of a second, the destroyed flesh, skin, and muscle tissue knit back together perfectly. The blood vanishes, leaving his matte black uniform slightly torn but his body completely immaculate and healed. Serzex steps back, his composure completely breaking. Regeneration. No. You didn't heal. You completely reversed time on your physical cells. It's just math, candy hair, Angie smirks, raising his hand as a blinding crimson sphere of rojo begins to form on his fingertip. Now it's my turn to push back. His face is completely serious, stripped of any typical teenage panic. Listen to me. We aren't handing this over to you guys. This box holds someone who is absolutely essential to the future of our entire world. Satoru Gojo belongs to our universe, and we are taking him back, no matter what. Interface of principles. Yuji Itadori Serzex Lucifer. Protecting the future, protecting the underworld. Guarding the prison realm confused by jujutsu logic. The heavy truth. The weight of the future. Yuji explains that without Satoru Gojo, their home world will plunge into permanent darkness and ruin under curses. The refusal. He makes it clear that while they don't want a war with the underworld, they will absolute rip through every devil in existence before they let anyone treat the prison realm like a trophy. Angie's cosign. Angie doesn't lower his hand, the crimson light of rojo still humming dangerously on his fingertip. He glances at Yuji with a sharp smirk. Well said, Yuji. But if they still want to take it, I'm perfectly fine compressing this entire castle into a marble. Serzex's realization. Serzex Lucifer stops, his terrifying power of destruction slowly receding into his body. As a leader, he doesn't just see a threat anymore, he sees two desperate, fiercely loyal warriors fighting for the survival of their own reality. He looks at Yuji's unwavering stance, then at Angie's absolute, reality-bending power. The future of your world, you say. Serzex murmurs, crossing his arms as his expression softens. A world that breeds humans capable of shattering our laws of physics and immortality just to save one man. Riser Phoenix, barely holding his flaming torso together after Yuji's consecutive black flashes, spits out a mouthful of blood. Serzex, you aren't seriously listening to these lower race brats, are you? Riser demands their execution. Be silent, Riser, Serzex commands coldly, a single glance from the Crimson Satan forcing the Phoenix Devil to shut his mouth instantly. Serzex looks back at Yuji and Angie. If the stakes are truly that high, then keeping you here is pointless. But you cannot stay in the underworld. Let us negotiate a way to get your teacher out of that box without destroying my kingdom. The tension has shifted from an all-out war to a tense truce. Position report. Maki Zenin Underworld Royal Guards. Standing at throne room gates pinned to the floor, unconscious. Weapon, split soul katana status, completely overwhelmed. Objective, rejoining the squad threat level, 0. Maki's POV. The air down here tastes like sulfur and old ash. It's disgusting. I slam the heavy, gold-trimmed obsidian doors open with a single kick, the metal hinges groaning and snapping under the force. I don't even look down at the dozen or so elite royal guards I just left groveling in the hallway behind me. They tried to block the corridor with those fancy glowing magic circles, but a quick bash with the pommel of the split-soul katana shattered their armor, and their pride, easily enough. As I step into the massive courtyard, the view is a complete mess. The ground is pulverized. There's a distinct, static hum of cursed energy vibrating through the air that makes the hairs on my arms stand up. On one side, some blonde guy with flaming wings is currently trying to scrape his chest back together, gasping for air like a fish out of water. Yuji is standing right in front of him, his knuckles still smoking with the dark, spatial residue of a black flash. And then there's Angie. Listen to me. Yuji's voice echoes through the high ceilings, cutting through the crackle of fire. He's holding that ugly, fleshy prison realm cube high in the air, staring down a red-haired guy in fancy robes who looks like the boss of this place. We aren't handing this over to you guys. This box holds someone who is absolutely essential to the future of our entire world. I stop walking, resting the blunt edge of my katana over my shoulder. A small, dry smirk pulls at the corner of my mouth. Classic Yuji. Even in a literal demon kingdom, surrounded by gods and monsters, the kid is still giving lectures about the power of friendship and saving the future. He doesn't have a cynical bone in his body. The red-haired boss, Surzex, or whatever his name is, actually seems to be listening. The massive, oppressive black pressure he was radiating slowly starts to shrink back into his body. He looks at Yuji, then looks over at Angie's glowing finger, his expression shifting from anger to pure, calculated caution. He's realized what I realized a long time ago. Trying to fight a Gojo using normal logic is a quick way to get yourself erased. The future of your world, you say. The red-haired boss murmurs, crossing his arms. Hey, Yuji, I call out, my voice flat as I casually stroll into the center of the standoff, my boots clicking against the cracked obsidian. Nice speech. But you left your blind spot open. Yuji snaps his head around, his eyes lighting up. Maki-san. You made it. Angie doesn't lower his finger, but his emerald green eyes flick over to me, a sharp, cocky grin returning to his face. Took you long enough, monster. I was about to turn this entire castle into a bowling ball. Shut up, brat, I grunt, stopping right beside them. I glance down at the flaming blonde guy who is still whimpering on the floor. You guys already had all the fun. Next time a god pulls up, I get first crack. I shift my gaze back to the red-haired ruler, my grip on my katana tightening just a fraction. The atmosphere is tense, but the immediate urge to slaughter each other has dropped. Now, it's just a matter of seeing if these devils are smart enough to stay out of our way. The squad is fully reunited in the heart of the underworld.
Angie Gojo, Satoru Gojo's 16-year-old cousin, tears through the dimensional rift right after Yuji, crashing into Kuo town to secure the prison realm. As a second-year Jujutsu student, his arrival completely shifts the power balance between the Jujutsu sorcerers and the Kuo devils. Character design and appearance. The look, a sharp, custom matte black Jujutsu high uniform with a high collar. Physical traits. Messy grayish-blue hair that falls over striking, luminous emerald green eyes. The vibe, at 16, he carries the arrogant, effortless confidence of the Gojo clan, but with a darker, more grounded aesthetic than Satoru. Cursed technique, void gravity. Unlike Satoru's limitless, Angie manipulates gravity directly, forcing everyone in Kuo town to feel the weight of a Jujutsu sorcerer. Event Horizon creates an invisible localized field around himself where gravity is multiplied by hundreds, pinning devils and fallen angels to the floor instantly. Singularity Attraction pulls objects, enemies, or even space itself toward a central point, allowing him to snatch the prison realm cube away from anyone who touches it. Repulsion wave reverses gravitational pull to launch enemies into the sky or deflect incoming magical attacks like Issei's dragon shot. The interruption, pulling up on Ria's. Angie drops from the sky directly into the middle of Yuji's standoff with the Gremory household. Oi, Yuji. Hand over the box. Satoru is embarrassing enough as a captive, we don't need these cosplayers touching him. Rias and her peerage deploy their demonic aura, but Angie steps forward. With a simple flick of his fingers, he activates his technique, forcing Koneko and Issei to their knees as the ground cracks beneath them under immense gravitational pressure. He makes it clear that while Satoru is sealed, the Gojo clan is far from helpless. Angie Gojo, Satoru Gojo's 16-year-old cousin, and a registered special-grade Jujutsu sorcerer, tears through the dimensional rift right after Yuji, crashing into Kuo town to secure the sealed prison realm. As a second-year student possessing reality-warping gravitational power, his arrival completely upends the supernatural hierarchy of the devil world. Character profile, Angie Gojo. Appearance, messy grayish-blue hair framing striking, luminous emerald green eyes. Attire, a sleek, custom matte black Jujutsu high uniform with a sharp, high collar. Status, special grade. At just 16, his sheer cursed energy reserves rival natural disasters, carrying the signature, effortless arrogance of the Gojo bloodline. Special grade technique, void gravity. While Satoru commands infinity, Angie controls the fundamental force of gravity, manipulating mass and space with terrifying precision. Event Horizon creates an invisible localized field where gravity is instantly multiplied by hundreds, pinning high-ranking devils to the dirt before they can cast a single spell. Singularity Attraction warps space to pull objects, enemies, or the prison realm cube directly into his hand from miles away. Gravitational Collapse, his ultimate offensive move, crushing targets under localized black hole-level pressure, completely bypassing traditional demonic magic and barriers. The entrance, pulling up on the Gremory household. Angie drops from the sky, shattering the pavement right as Yuji is surrounded by the Gremory household. The sheer weight of his special-grade presence causes the air to turn heavy, making it difficult for the devils to breathe. Oi, Yuji. Hand over the box. Satoru is embarrassing enough as a captive, we don't need these winged cosplayers touching him. Ria's Gremory, sensing danger, steps forward and unleashes her power of destruction. Angie doesn't even blink. With a casual flick of his wrist, he activates his technique. Instantly, a massive invisible weight slams down. Issei's boosted gear screams a warning as he, Koneko, and Kiba are forced to their knees, the ground cracking violently beneath them. Angie stands perfectly fine in the center of the crushed crater, proving that even with Satoru sealed, a special-grade Gojo is a god among monsters. The dimensional boundary of the underworld shatters like glass. High above the dimensional gap, two of the most powerful entities in existence, Great Red, the Dragon of Dragons, and Ophis, the infinite dragon god, converge on a single human. Standing on empty space, 16-year-old Angie Gojo adjusts the collar of his matte black Jujutsu high uniform. His grayish-blue hair whips in the cosmic wind, and his emerald green eyes glow with absolute boredom. In his left hand, he casually tosses the sealed prison realm cube. Battle in the dimensional gap. Ophis, infinite dragon god, and Great Red, Dragon of Dragons. vs. Angie Gojo, special grade. The Clash of Infinites. Great Red roars, a sound that vibrates through reality itself, and fires a massive blast of pure, conceptual destruction. Simultaneously, Ophis blinks, manifesting her infinite manifestation energy to erase Angie from existence. Cute, Angie mutters. He doesn't dodge. He doesn't even drop the cube. He raises his right hand, two fingers crossed. Cursed technique, Event Horizon. An invisible, localized barrier of absolute gravity snaps into existence around him. The concept of weight ceases to be a measurement and becomes a physical wall. Great Red's breath attack hits the barrier and violently warps, bending 90 degrees downward into the void. Ophus's infinite erasure magic slows to a crawl, trapped in a time-dilated gravitational well where light itself cannot escape. Crushing the gods. Before the two dragon gods can register that their ultimate attacks were casually deflected, Angie flexes his fingers downward. Void gravity, singularity. A pinpoint of pitch-black energy forms between Great Red and Ophus. The gravitational pull is instantaneous and absolute. Great Red, a creature the size of an island, yelps as his colossal body is violently dragged toward the center. Ophus tries to phase through space, but Angie's gravity is so dense it warps space-time itself, dragging her physical form back into reality. The impact, the two strongest entities in Highschool DxD collide into each other at supersonic speeds, pinned together by an artificial black hole. The pressure, Great Red's armor-like scales begin to crack and shatter under the localized weight of 10,000 stars. The defeat, Ophus's infinite energy reserves are completely choked out, compressed so tightly she cannot even manifest her power. Absolute dominance. Angie floats down, stopping right in front of the writhing, pinned dragons. The pressure radiating from his special grade cursed energy completely eclipses the aura of the dragon gods. He looks down at them, his emerald eyes cold and mocking. "You guys talk a lot about infinity and dreams in this world," Angie says, tapping the prison realm cube against his leg. "But my cousin Satoru is the only one allowed to be infinite. To me, you're just heavy garbage." With a final flick of his wrist, he releases the pressure, sending both Great Red and Ophus crashing into the depths of the dimensional gap, bruised, battered, and thoroughly defeated by a human teenager. Yuji catches up to Angie just as the two dragon gods crash into the abyss, his jaw dropping in pure disbelief. He lunges forward, grabbing the 16-year-old special grade by the shoulders of his matte black uniform. Yuji's panic attack. The lecture, Angie. Are you insane? You just beat up the literal gods of this world. We are supposed to be laying low. The concern, Yuji waves his arms around frantically, pointing down at the crater left by Great Red and Ophus. We just got here, and you're already causing natural disasters. What if the rest of the locals think we are enemies? The reality check. Yuji reminds Angie that their number one priority is finding a way to unseal Gojo, not picking fights with giant dragons. Angie's bored response. Angie casually shoves Yuji's hands off his shoulders and tosses the prison realm cube in the air, catching it effortlessly. His emerald green eyes don't show a hint of remorse. Relax, Yuji. If the gods of this world are this fragile, then nobody here can stop us anyway. Besides, they started it. Sukuna's sudden input. Suddenly, a mouth splits open on Yuji's cheek, and Ryaman Sukuna's voice echoes out, dripping with malice and amusement. Ha ha ha. Well done, brat. The lizards deserve to be crushed. Though, if you really want to test that gravity of yours, Angie, try pointing it at me next time. Yuji slaps his own cheek to shut Sukuna up, sighing heavily. He realizes that between a reckless special grade Gojo and the king of curses living inside his own body, keeping Kuo Town safe is going to be an impossible job. Angie casually catches the prison realm cube, looking Sukuna's mouth dead in the eye. A smirk tugs at the corner of his mouth as his grayish-blue hair shadows his glowing emerald eyes. Nah. You're kinda weak. The ultimate disrespect. The silence, the entire dimensional gap goes dead silent as Yuji freezes in sheer terror. The provocation, Angie openly mocks the King of Curses, completely unfazed by the title that strikes fear into the entire Jujutsu world. The logic, to a special grade Gojo who just flattened the two strongest concepts in this universe, a fragmented soul trapped in a teenager isn't a threat, it's a minor inconvenience. Sukuna's fury. Sukuna's eye snaps open under Yuji's left eye, veins bulging furiously across Yuji's face. The king of curses has never been so casually degraded by a 16-year-old. You arrogant little brat. I will dismantle you piece by piece until there's nothing left of your bloodline. Yuji intervenes. Before Sukuna can force a binding vow or take control, Yuji aggressively smacks his own cheek, violently suppressing the curse. He grabs his head, sweating profusely, looking at Angie like he has a death wish. Angie, stop egging him on. Yuji yells, his voice cracking from the stress. Do you want him to switch out and destroy the whole city? Satoru is already gone, I can't handle both of you being menaces. Angie just chuckles, turning his back and walking toward the rift leading back to Kuo Town. Let him try. My gravity works on souls too, Yuji. Now hurry up, we have a box to open. As they head back to the human world, Angie and Yuji step back through the dimensional rift, slipping into the quiet streets of Kuo Town under the cover of a moonlit night. They walk past the iron gates of Kuo Academy, the dark windows of the school reflecting the pale moon. Suddenly, the ambient temperature drops. The puddles on the pavement freeze into solid sheets of ice, as a massive, magical pink circle manifests right in front of them. The magical girl entrance. Out of the glowing crest steps Serafall Leviathan, one of the 4 Satans of the underworld. She is wearing her over-the-top, sparkling magical girl outfit, holding her signature staff. Nighttime encounter, Kuo Academy. Serafall Leviathan, Satan, versus Angie Gojo, and Yuji Itadori, Jujutsu High. Instead of looking threatening, she strikes a dramatic pose, winking at the 2 trespassers. Halt, suspicious boys Tilda. I am the magical girl Leviathan, and you're making the nighttime air way too gloomy. Tell Leviathan what you're doing at my cute little sister's school, or I'll have to punish you Tilda. The reactions. Yuji's utter confusion, Yuji blinks, completely bewildered by the grown woman dressed as an anime magical girl. He whispers loudly to Angie, Angie? Is this another god? Why is she dressed like that? Should we run? Angie's total boredom, Angie doesn't even stop walking. His emerald green eyes track the frost creeping up the school gates. He adjusts the high collar of his matte black uniform, tossing the prison realm cube casually. Hey, Yuji. Look, a clown. Just walk past her. Turning serious. Serafall's cheerful smile instantly vanishes. As a Satan, she already felt the cosmic shockwave from Great Red and Ophis being crushed in the dimensional gap, and the trail led straight to these 2 teenagers. The playful magical girl aura disappears, replaced by a suffocating, freezing pressure that makes the air crackle with ice. The ground beneath Yuji and Angie shatters into frost. I wouldn't do that if I were you, Serafall says, her voice dropping to a freezing, absolute calm. You 2 are the ones who disrupted the dimensional gap. As a Satan of the underworld, I cannot let entities as dangerous as you roam freely near Rias and Sona. Angie stops. He turns his head slightly, his grayish-blue hair catching the moonlight. A sharp, arrogant smirk spreads across his face. A Satan, huh? Angie mutters, lifting his hand as a dark purple spark of cursed energy begins to swirl around his fingers. Let's see if your ice can handle absolute zero density. The tension is breaking. The frosty air around Kuo Academy turns deadly silent. Serafall Leviathan stands her ground, her demonic aura expanding until the entire school block is encased in a thick, crystalline dome of absolute ice. The sheer drop in temperature freezes the dew in mid-air, creating a glittering, lethal mist. Angie Gojo takes his hands out of the pockets of his matte black uniform. He lets the prison realm cube rest loosely in his left palm, totally unbothered by the frost creeping up his boots. His grayish-blue hair stirs in the freezing draft, but his emerald-green eyes are fixed intently on the magic circle hovering behind the Satan. "You speak pretty highly of yourself for someone wearing a costume," Angie says, his voice cutting clearly through the howling, icy wind. Seraphor's playful demeanor is entirely gone now. Her eyes narrow into sharp slits. "You boys entered our territory, without permission, after causing a disturbance that shook the entire dimensional gap. I am the ruler of the underworld's ice. I won't let you threaten my sister's peace." With a swift, elegant wave of her staff, she unleashes her signature spell. Celsius Cross. A massive, multi-layered cross of absolute zero ice erupts from the pavement, rushing toward Angie and Yuji at hypersonic speed. The attack doesn't just freeze the physical space, it completely stops the molecular movement of everything it touches, threatening to lock the two sorcerers in a permanent cryogenic stasis. "Angie! Look out!" Yuji yells, his instincts kicking into overdrive as he prepares to leap back, cursed energy already wrapping around his fists. "Stay put, Yuji," Angie commands calmly. He steps forward, placing himself between Yuji and the incoming wall of absolute zero. He raises his right hand, extending his index and middle fingers together in a precise, practiced gesture. He doesn't use his standard void gravity. Instead, he taps into the supreme application of his Gojo lineage, modifying his technique to pull a completely different force into reality. Cursed technique reversal, Rojo. The reversal, Rojo. Absolute zero ice equals Angie's Rojo equals vacuum blast. Seraphor's attack, repulsive mass, shattered space. The purple sparks of his standard gravity instantly invert, bleeding into a blinding, crimson-red sphere of condensed, repulsive mass. It sits on the tip of his finger like a miniature, bleeding star. While Satoru's red relies on the limitless to create a divergence of infinity, Angie's Rojo works on the absolute reversal of gravitational attraction, negative mass. By creating a point of space with infinite repulsive weight, he forces reality itself to violently push outward. "Repel," Angie whispers. The crimson blast keeps moving. The atmospheric pressure increases so rapidly that the oxygen in the air ignites, turning the frozen schoolyard into a roaring, wind-swept furnace in a fraction of a second. The massive ice dome Seraphor built shatters into millions of harmless, vaporized droplets. Seraphor's eyes widen in sheer horror, as the shockwave slams into her defensive demonic barriers. The barriers crack instantly under the weight of the negative mass, forcing the Satan back by several dozen feet, her boots carving deep trenches into the concrete before she can finally stabilize her footing. She pants slightly, looking down at her trembling hands. Her absolute ice, which could freeze the fires of the underworld, was utterly obliterated by a single casual gesture from a human teenager. Angie lowers his hand, the crimson light fading back into the darkness of the night. He looks at Seraphor, his emerald eyes gleaming with that trademark, insufferable Gojo arrogance. "You see, Leviathan," Angie mocks, a sharp smirk pulling at his lips. "Absolute zero means nothing when the space around you is being pushed away at the speed of light. Try bringing a real challenge next time." Yuji stares at the devastated street, then at Angie, completely speechless. "Dude, you just blew up the entire front gate. We are definitely getting detentions for this." The power of Rojo has completely stunned the underworld ruler.